Welcome to Industrial Marketing Live. I'm Erin Burrish, a senior strategist at the industrial marketing agency Gorilla 76 and one of your IML hosts. Today, Mary Keough is in the house. Woo! And this time she's talking product pages. So Mary is fresh off a big website project for CoLab and is here to share all the knowledge. So Mary, before we get too far into things, do you want to talk a little bit about your role at CoLab and this project that you just wrapped up?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Erin. I'm so excited to be here. I love Industrial Marketing Live, one of my favorite, not only recurring webinars, but communities like in the digital space. So I'm so excited to be back talking with you guys. So my role at CoLab is the Director of Product and Content Marketing. So what that means is if you guys know MJ Smith, formerly MJ Peters, she is now the CMO at CoLab. So I'm basically like in charge of taking everything off of her plate that was overwhelming her. So that's basically what my role is at CoLab. And that involves creating content pillars. So content pillars that will bring in leads, bring in results, bring in traffic and brand awareness for CoLab. And then the other part of that is product marketing. So a lot of communicating our product's value to our ICP. So that's kind of my role in a nutshell. And the reason Erin pulled me on is we just finished up not only a huge website redesign, but also we updated all of our use case pages on our website. So you'll also see there's some features pages on our website. We did revamp those as well and added in some new ones. But the bulk of my conversation today is going to be about our use case pages, which is our highest traffic driver for CoLabSoftware.com. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell, and I'm super excited to talk about it. Erin, do you want me to take it away, or do you want to start with some questions?
Yeah, let's start with some questions.
Cool.
I'm Alan, by the way, your other host. And so we're talking about the purpose of product pages, especially if we're trying to make killer product pages, so to say. So just to start off with, what do you think of when you think of the purpose of product pages, Mary?
Yeah, I think the purpose of a product page, of course, I hate this answer. I hated it when I was a new industrial marketer, but it really does depend. Like I said, we even have two versions of a product page, which is a use case page and an actual features page. So what the product actually does. So it really does depend. It depends on what you want to do with the product page. Where do most of your customers come in? That's your first question that you need to answer. Are you getting a lot of word of mouth referrals? Are you getting a lot of SEO? Are you doing a lot of paid social content distribution? All of those kind of factor into what makes a killer product page. I will speak to it from two different lenses. So one from a lens in my past roles where the website was a primary lead driver. So it was like, hey, fill out this for more information about the product that you're currently on. So like very industrial manufacturing, physical product focused. And then I'll talk on the other side, which is the CoLab side. We are also getting leads, but the leads are not find more information about this product. It's like book a demo with our sales team. So the product pages, in my opinion, should achieve a goal. So you should have a goal for the product page, either find more information or get a demo with your sales team, subscribe to our newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. There should be a conversion point for your product page, though. That's what makes a killer product page.
And how do you think of that differently, and what does it need to achieve differently depending on where your target audience is in the funnel?
Yeah, that's a really great question too. And this is another one where it'll depend a lot on where your customer is in their buying journey when they land on your page. So like I just told you guys, the use case pages for CoLab are our primary traffic driver, and we do a lot of paid social media and organic social media. So our customers are coming in kind of like unaware of what CoLab does or what CoLab is, but very aware of the problem that they're having. So they might be suffering. So CoLab is a design review, design engagement system. It helps engineers during design review, the design review process. So there's a lot of problems that they're experiencing in that process. Collaboration is really difficult. It's hard to share files. It's hard to track issues. Those are all problems that they have during it. So a lot of our product pages, use case pages speak to those problems. And what I mean by speak to it is we're very boldly saying what that problem exactly is. So, hey, it sucks when you have to go search your inbox to find an issue that you don't remember when it occurred or how it happened. So we'll address that right there. That's your pain point. We then use CoLab as a pain reliever. So how does CoLab help relieve that pain? And then, so that's usually like our subhead on our website. I'll probably pull up like a screen share or something just to help emphasize this point. And then it's like a how. So what are the actual process? What's the workflow in CoLab that helps achieve that pain reliever? And then of course, we'll talk about some features in there too.
Mhm. And so when it comes to aiming at customers or potential customers that are very high intention, very low in the funnel, does your product page at that point just need to be more of a glorified spec sheet? Or what do you think of that, especially when it comes to, your industrial experience?
Yeah, I have not seen an example yet of a product page that has actually been like super, super bottom of the funnel. That makes me immediately think e-commerce, because people are like, they're searching part numbers, they're searching pricing, they're searching like very specific capabilities. And to be honest, this is building killer B2B product pages. So I don't know a lot about e-commerce B2C. So I think that very rarely are you targeting people who are super, super bottom of the funnel in B2B. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you mentioned one thing, kind of the difference between some different components on the page. And one thing we talked about when we were prepping was like features versus use cases. And you were working really heavily on these like use case pages. So you want to kind of talk about the difference between those terms?
Yeah, so if I was doing, to be totally honest, like if I was doing an industrial page today, unless it was like something super custom, really out there, like a lot of these biological manufacturing companies or like really high tech medical device manufacturing companies are probably going to be like, they're creating their own category. They're like their own kind of thing. I think for the most part, where we're at and where this audience is on IML today is you're probably like, what you're selling. There's like a category of what you're selling. So it might be spray nozzles. It might be packaging equipment. It might be a CNC machine. So you kind of already know the category that it is. So in my opinion, industrial marketing pages should be categorized by that category. And that is why we do the use case pages the way we do on CoLab, is because CoLab doesn't really fit in a category, but the thing that it fits into is a use case. So think of like use case equals kind of like category. And that's how I would kind of structure your product pages at a higher level.
And so when we dig into the copy, what are the first things that you think about once you've got your overall outline figured out? What do you start when you dive into copy?
Yeah, so I will tell you that when we redid the use case pages on our website, probably like 60 to 70% of my time was spent in prep. So prep means listening to sales calls, interviewing the sales team, interviewing our customer success team, interviewing our product team. It was a lot of like finding out. So from sales and CS, it's a lot of problem detective work. So what really is that problem that our customer is trying to solve with our product? And in there, I'm like digging in to also the buying process. So it would be really easy for me, I'll use CoLab as an example again, to say, oh, sifting through emails is a problem our customers have. That's a pretty low level problem. Like you could see an engineering leader or leadership team being like, okay, suck it up, engineer, like go sift through some more emails. I'm sorry it takes you 30 extra minutes, right? But when you dig in and you're like, okay, sales team, like tell me more about that. Like, how does that affect the engineers day to day? Why is this such a big problem that's coming up? Oh, now we find out it's not just sifting through emails, it's also sifting through screenshots in a PowerPoint. It's sitting in on emails, it's taking manual notes. So we have all of these tiny little cuts that are starting to add up. And now I'm digging in. I'm like, okay, and what are the effects of that? The effects of that are downstream in production. The engineering and manufacturing team is experiencing a lot of product rework. So they're finding a lot of errors that they could have caught in design later on in production, and that's slowing the entire product development cycle down. We work with really competitive markets, automotive, heavy machinery. So even a few weeks delay is like insane, like digging in on profit margins that are already like razor thin. So like those few weeks mean a lot to these customers. So there, we just dug into the problem, we dug into the results of that problem and the catalyst. So all of that is really important before you even put your fingers to the keyboard and start like typing out actual copy. Then that brings me to, that also can help you structure your product page. So if you hit on a few problem and solutions, this is how the use case pages are structured on CoLab. If you go there, we have, okay, here are the 2 to 3 problems that you're probably experiencing with this use case that our product addresses, and here's how it addresses it. And then the remainder of the page is social proof, FAQs, and integrations. So these are actually just 3 big categories that are really important in our buyer's journey. So we like mapped out the entire buyer's journey. We interviewed real customers, and the top 3 questions are like, can I talk to somebody? Like, do you have case studies to prove this out? Do you have customer testimonials? Do you have customer referrals? Then it's, does it integrate with XYZ software? Anybody who's implemented a software solution, I'm sure, can relate with this. And then of course, there's just like these little random ticky-tack FAQs that kind of keep coming up during sales calls, but there's not really a place to put them on the product page. So we just have like a big FAQ section. And then of course, you can't forget your call to action. So we have a call to action sprinkled in a few places on those use case pages. So like I said, the copy is really just, it's almost mimicking exactly what a customer would need to know before committing to a demo of your product. Or in the case of industrial, maybe committing to a first call with your sales team, a request for a quote, a request for more information. But basically like anything that would give your sales team some kind of signal that they're ready to buy.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I think SaaS or heavy industrial, we all have an issue where we have a lot of potential jargon that we could use and a lot of ways that we talk about things that the average human being is going to have no clue what we're talking about. So how do you think about filling in that big gap between the insider and the potential customer who's more on the outside of that world?
Yeah, I think this all goes back to like, you almost have to like listen to customer calls or be on a real call with a customer to talk about their day-to-day. Because in my opinion, especially if you are in a highly competitive market or you're in a niche market like CoLab is with very little brand awareness, then kind of like using jargon can work to your benefit if you're specific enough about the situation. So I'll use this as an example because it's on our website, so you could find it anywhere. There is a very specific parts approval process in the automotive industry, and it's called a PPAP. No one says parts approval process. They say PPAP. So when we talk about PPAP, like here's how you can improve your PPAP cycle or rework during PPAP, we say PPAP. So like that's what we'll say on the website. So that could be categorized as jargon, but it's also the language that every single person in the automotive industry uses. So if we used parts approval process, they would instantly be like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like they don't know me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that just goes back to knowing your customer base well enough to know what is jargon to them and what is just basic language.
Yes, I would almost say like jargon to me these days is more like those really lame like corporate speak, like we are going to optimize a breakthrough in your current cutting edge process, you know, like basically like words that don't mean anything, I think is more jargon than actually using the words your customer uses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
Yeah.
then going beyond the words, when we're talking about the very top of our product pages, what are the visual elements that you think are really important depending on, you know, where at in the funnel this customer may be? You know, is it a chart that shows how this full buying process is going to go for them, or is it, you know, a basic product product photo? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think showing the product as much as possible is awesome. If you go, so MJ, my boss CMO at CoLab, used to work for a company called Firetrace. And on a few of her top product pages, she created this like really simple animation. Like she's like, I think I paid someone on Upwork like $500 to create this like product animation. And all it is like a see how it works. And they just press the play and it shows how a fire suppression system works. Like that was like, she said that increased conversions more than almost anything else on the website. So I think just like, I think showing the product is absolutely critical. And in something like a fire suppression system, which maybe folks are, kind of unfamiliar with, or they don't know how it works in their exact process, a see how it works, like little animation or a video can be like amazing. So yes, I agree, Erin, like definitely show, not tell.
That's a great segue. Luke had a question about, the difference between SaaS and like physical industrial products, and how to kind of visually show it. I think the fire trace example is a great one. But Luke, did you want to come on and ask that question, add some more color there?
I'd love to. I love to grill Mary.
Hey, that looks
Although I,
good.
although
The
my,
background looks good.
thank you. I put it in the chat that I saw your kids' pictures and I tried to one up it with more pictures. So,
Yeah, your kids are definitely better artists than mine.
uh, so CoLab is a sauce software platform,
It's saucy. Yep.
obviously. Uh, and I'm not trying to dog how easy I think it would be to market something like that, but you can get screenshots, you can get screen captures of how the software works.
Totally.
Many of us industrial marketers are into marketing physical things, big things,
Yep.
large things, mechanical things, which I know you have also marketed in the past with spray nozzles and other industries you've worked for. So
Yep.
tell us what's the same and what's different and what you've kind of learned about each. Like, is there a lesson from marketing physical things that applied to your new role? And is there stuff you've learned at your new role that you might share back with us that could work in a different way?
Yeah, totally. So I think the showing not telling is a big one. I will say I think SaaS in a lot of ways, even though it's super easy to take screenshots and things, if you have a user interface that's super complicated, like there's a lot of things going on if you just like went into CoLab right now. So it's actually not great to show that because it's really overwhelming for a first time viewer. If I just like popped into CoLab software and saw the UI as is, I would be really overwhelmed. Like I wouldn't really know what to look at. So you could kind of apply that same thing to physical. So what we do in a lot of our images and videos on the website that you'll see is we'll like zoom into a specific point, or we'll do like it's called a ghosted UI, where we'll remove a lot of like the extraneous features that don't relate to what we're showing on the website out of it. So we have like a graph.
Mary
Oh, no.
forgot to pay the bills.
Oh no,
We
You're
lost you
back.
for a second.
shoot. Am I in?
Yep, you're back.
Okay, cool. Where'd you lose me at?
Graphic.
Graphic design. Okay, cool. So the other thing that I think industrial could do and take from SaaS is a little bit of that, which is I see a lot of industrial products that just show, I'll use packaging equipment as another example. They'll just show the packaging equipment and be like, here it is. Like, here's our, packaging Max X5000. And like, there it is. But what you could do is a lot of like what Firetrace did, what folks in SaaS do is like point out the specific features and like capabilities on that thing. Like you can use Canva to do that, for free. It's like super easy. So I think that's like a really great way to like, showcase the product, but still like be markety or like saucy.
We had another good question from Daniel in the chat, talking about what to do if you're catering to multiple industries and whether having several use case pages is the way to go. So Daniel, do you want to come on and talk about that more? If not, we can just infer from what
Yeah,
was
that's cool.
the chat.
Yeah, so this is a really hard one, and it really depends on the size of your marketing team and the resources available to you. Just from my experience in the industrial sphere, I'm going to guess those resources are very low and your marketing team is quite small. So you need to be like super communicative with your leadership team and say like, I cannot focus on 5 different industries and write these product pages because you just can't. What I would do in that situation is say, hey, what are our business goals for the year? Are we really looking to increase our presence in oil and gas over the next 3 to 5 years and maybe not focus so much on oil and beverage or food and beverage? If so, now let's talk about it. Now I have a new focus, and that's oil and gas. So this has a lot more to do with where you spend your time, how you communicate with your leadership team than it really does with product pages, unfortunately.
Yeah, Daniel found the unmute button now, I think. So did you have
Okay,
any
cool.
Daniel, you with us?
Poor Daniel. I know he's probably like very flustered right now trying to find the unmute button.
Oh no, yeah, I think there's some technical difficulties. But yeah, feel free to follow up after the show if there's more. Actually, I think there was a follow-up question. Somebody responded in that
Yeah,
thread.
Stephanie.
So Stephanie, if you wanted to come on, you said piggyback off this question, what if you're very niched and have a primary use case, but there are other uses with the same product? Would you make additional pages for those uses outside of the primary, or would you just focus on the primary?
Yeah, I think you could. I just probably wouldn't make it part of like the main navigation. So you could make them like little, what are those called? Cluster pages. So you kind of like link to them, like in the, let's say you have your big use case and you're doing like a Z pattern style, and you have like your 3 smaller use cases below. So you could kind of link to them that way in like a Z pattern. Or if you're doing like a problem solution kind of thing, like I talked about earlier, where you're just nailing the problem solution, you're talking about the integrations, you're talking about the social proof. And then at the bottom, you'll also see on our use case pages, we have like links to other use cases. So you could do that where it's like kind of like a grid icon, and then just link out to those like separate use case pages.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you about, Mary. It was just like your perspective on navigation, because I feel like if you start to go down this rabbit hole where you're like, okay, every industry and every product and every use case of that product, it's like you're just going to spider out, and people are going to get hit with this wall of like New York Times front page text when they open your navigation menu. So it's like, I guess I was just curious about your opinion more on navigation too, and how you guys have kind of handled that.
Yeah, I'm like a little bit loosey-goosey on like navigation rules. I would say if you, and it really does, like this goes back to how your customers find you today. So I know a lot of industrial companies rely really heavily on SEO. So if like SEO is the primary way that your folks are finding individual product pages, sure, go ahead and throw them all in the navigation, because very few people are probably coming to your homepage and navigating through your menu to find the product page, because they're finding it in Google doing some kind of like keyword search, right? Now, if your primary channel is word of mouth, social media, your sales team, then yeah, they're probably searching for your brand. You know, I'll use MacTech as an example since Luke just came on. And it's like, oh, cool, Luke. I remember Luke posting about, you know, clamshell. I don't remember exactly what you sell, but I know there's a clamshell something in there, Luke. And oh, I'll go to like, thank you. I'll go to mactech.com, and then they're navigating through your menu. So that's when you want to be a little bit tighter. It really depends on like how your customers find you today.
Awesome. Yeah, that website navigation is going to be like so unique to everyone. I like what you called out is like, yeah, it's like how they're finding you. Is it an industry where people know like the terminology for like clamshell lathes, or are they, you know, looking for more of like a solution to a problem? And so then they're looking for like, design review software or something
Yes.
like that. So yeah, I think that's great.
Well,
We've
to add-
mentioned a couple of times how to figure that out, but since we're like talking about it, you know, like if you have a CRM where you can see first page seen, look at that, and then you can start to analyze data there. But you can also get that in Google Analytics
Yep.
and Search Console to see like the landing page is what it's typically called in those. And then you can find out how folks are finding you organically.
Yeah. I will say, I know there's been a lot of like hate on GA4 recently, especially from people who really heavily relied on like UA, Universal Analytics, but it's actually, in my opinion, way easier to set up an event in Google Analytics. So if you're really looking to find out how people are interacting with your top product pages, creating an event in GA4 is like actually not super tricky.
All right. Well, we had another request for more info in the chat from Aaron Weeks, your old friend, if he'd like to come on.
So Al, come on, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, Mary, I'll set you up for this one, but we chatted with Anthony Perry. He works for Fletch PMM, and he told us his key learning that really opened our eyes, which is some pages need to focus less on outcomes and more on features. And there's a
Yes.
reason why. Do you want to kind of tell everyone that?
Yes, actually, I'm really glad you asked that because I think I saw yours come in. So I'm just gonna read you guys. This is gonna be so awesome. I'm gonna read you guys a subhead, and you have to tell me what you think the product is. Like, put it in the chat, whatever. I'll monitor it. We're in plants like yours every day, solving production problems, enhancing sustainability efforts, and improving worker safety. Our experts provide hands-on service, and we offer quick delivery from strategically located manufacturing facilities on 6 continents. What do they sell?
Widgets.
Dreams, yes, pretty.
Is it leverage?
I'm dying at Daniel's
Yeah,
comment
this
of
is
synergy.
this is a spray nozzle. It's a spray nozzle spray system manufacturer and OEM. You had no idea what they sold, right? Because the first thing on their website is just a bunch of like, you know, features, benefits, capabilities stuff. Now, like I said, maybe for this company, a lot of their stuff is SEO. So their homepage really isn't super important. And maybe not a lot of people kind of land there as their first part of their buyer's journey. But that's just an example of like, I think features and capabilities are far, far more important than these like kind of high level benefits and outcomes, especially in the industrial sphere. You know, like these, you guys are talking to like facilities operators. They don't care. I mean, bless them, but they do not care about enhancing sustainability efforts. That is a C-suite owned initiative in these big giant corporations, and they're kind of involved in pulling the strings on how they communicate that to the greater market. So yeah, your facility operator doesn't care about enhancing sustainability efforts, sorry to say.
Yeah, that reminds me of those Super Bowl commercials that kind of seem like a short film, but you have no idea what they were advertising by the end of it. It's like, well, that was kind of nice, but was it a travel agency? Were they selling me the car I saw for a minute there? What are we doing?
Yes, totally. I think honestly, this is like a total aside while we're seeing what the next question comes up, but I think Duncan actually did a really good job of it with like that Ben Affleck, Matt Damon thing, because they were like dressed in Duncan, they were holding coffee. The commercial didn't really have anything to do with like coffee or like the benefits and outcomes of drinking coffee, like enhanced energy, but you like saw the coffee and it looked cool being held by Ben Affleck, and you know, J-Lo made an appearance, so it was cool.
Lean into the cringe.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's a great example of like brand versus like product marketing, right? And there's a time and a place for both. But I think, yeah, especially when you're on those product pages, sometimes it is more about the features. And obviously you got to connect the dots if the outcome of those features isn't obvious. But yeah, I think that's a really good point for pages like this.
Nice.
We're coming towards the end of our time here together. I want to kind of wrap up by talking about where to start if you think your product pages or use case pages could use some work. What are some good next steps?
Yeah, totally. So it really depends on the company and where you sit in the company, like how much political capital you have. I'll give you an example. Early on in my career, I did not have a lot of political capital. So I would have chosen probably a lower leverage product page. So maybe something that wasn't ranking super well and didn't have a lot of conversions coming out of it. So my goal would be get it to rank, get it to convert, and then like show exactly how I did that. That just makes it really easy for you to not only get more political capital, but move on to bigger, more important product pages.
Yeah, and I think we also talked about like some tips for how to audit your existing product pages against maybe that pain point solution framework you were walking through earlier. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So that's like probably the biggest one is, are you addressing even a single pain point on your product page? I just posted about this on LinkedIn today as like a promo for this episode, woo woo. But I think a lot of product pages in industrial lean way too heavily on the technical side. So you'll just get all of this like dimensional information, capacity information, basically like copy and pasted from a product catalog. And it's not really addressing like why this person should buy from you. And I think that's like just part of the big miss in general with a lot of these like older, more conventional, more conservative manufacturing companies is that they really just see the website as an online product catalog and not as like an actual potential way to get more customers. So yeah, that just kind of goes back to, that's how you can audit it. So first of all, are you actually even addressing any pain points? Now, the next is like kind of that framework that I shared earlier, which is, okay, we're addressing a pain point. Are we also now addressing a pain reliever that our product actually relieves? So how do we relieve this pain? Number 3 is like, how do we actually do it? What is the step-by-step process for doing it? And then the 4th, of course, is like mentioning any relevant features that are in there. I'm going to pull up just like, I'm sure all of you are, we're going to get like my digital marketers going to be like, why is there a 300% spike in our use case page traffic today? But I'm going to use an example on here. So one of them for our use case pages is new product development. So new product development is a huge use case for us. And the biggest pain reliever we have is that we have actually shown using CoLab can help cut NPD cycles in half in a lot of cases, so up to 50%. So pain is NPD cycles are way too long. Pain reliever is CoLab cuts NPD cycles in half. Now you do the real work, which is how do you do that? That is a very bold claim to make. So the rest of the product page is answering how exactly CoLab addresses how it cuts NPD cycles in half, not only the workflows that it addresses, but also the features it does that works into those workflows. So I'll use another example here. So the big part of cutting NPD cycles in half is just like, it seems really simple, but people are just having more conversations earlier in the product development cycle. So the first headline on NPD is initiate critical product conversations early and often. Okay, that's great. Now we're going to use the subtext in that section to explain exactly how CoLab does it. And of course, use an awesome product image to showcase it. So that's just kind of like my thought process, how you can start auditing your features pages today, or if you have use case pages, how you can start auditing those to make sure you're really addressing pain point, pain reliever, how it does it, specific features that do it.
All right. And before we wrap up, I want to bring something out of the chat, which was a request for your favorite product pages. You know, some good examples people can check out.
That is a good question. I think MJ has some really good ones when she worked at Firetrace, so I would go to there. I like obviously the CoLab pages. I think they're pretty awesome. Who is another one? I just recently pulled up an example. Fanic doesn't actually do a terrible job of it. Trying to think of I'm trying to think of some good SaaS examples too, because honestly, I think you guys could pull a lot of inspiration from like the copywriting on SaaS pages. Gongs are not terrible. Same with ClickUp. I think ClickUp is a little bit intense in its navigation, but if you navigate to some of their pages, their copywriting is pretty good. Yeah. I mean, do you guys have any examples that you want to share of companies you think do well?
John Deere tractors have some pretty good ones.
Nice.
Good photography, good use of space.
Nice. Oh, Joel, that's a really good point. Highly recommend it. It depends. Like, I know you are in a competitive market. So I think the more competitive the market, the more bold you have to be about your differentiators. So I think copying some parts of how SaaS is able to do that can be really interesting. Gong is like a great example because Gong's a call recording software, right? Like we all know that. But the way that they're addressing their point of view and all of their features and capabilities is like kind of elevating that and really highlighting a lot of their differentiators. So yeah, I know it's really hard to be an industrial marketer and to see all these examples from SaaS, but there's still some really great examples I think you can pull.
Yeah. And for anyone listening to the recording, that was in response to a comment about somebody saying they're thinking about shifting their site to be more SaaS-like. So awesome. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a really fun discussion about product pages. I know that's top of mind for a lot of people in the audience today. Do you have any like final thoughts, parting pieces of advice before I do my whole wrap-up spiel?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning into this hot, not so hot take more than anything now is like make sure you have a single conversion point on your pages. Like, what is the goal of your page? It should have a single goal. What is it? Make sure it's very obvious. So I think this is the big, like, it can be a big miss in industrial is you're giving a lot of information. You're trying to be really educational, but you are selling. You are a marketer who is selling a product using digital copy. So you have to ask for the request. You have to ask for the sale. That's like a big sales kind of tip there is just like make sure there's a conversion point.
Oh man, that could probably be a whole other episode, conversion copywriting for product pages specifically. We might have to do that on the podcast, get Alan on there too. But that is a great parting thought. Cool. Well, I'll just wrap up with a couple of announcements. First of all, if you haven't already, join the Industrial Marketing Collective. That is an online platform on a program called like circle.so. Just a more robust community for us to have discussions. There's also paid versions that include like a comprehensive course and weekly office hours. So just a lot of stuff to check out in there. You can go to industrialmarketingcollective.com to join. Also, Industrial Marketing Summit 2025. Said this the past couple of episodes, but early bird registration is open. And actually, I don't know if it's still early bird or if it's just regular registration at this point, but it's open. You can register. So you can join us in Austin, Texas again, February 26th through 28th. And our next episode is going to be with Dale Bertrand, SEO. That was a fitting slip, CEO of Fire and Spark. And he's going to be talking to us about leveling up your SEO game. So if you were at IMS earlier this year, you might remember Dale's awesome session. So we're really pumped to have him on IML next time. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see ya.
Bye.